안녕하세요. 스테디윈입니다. 매일 꾸준히 하면 성공합니다. 오늘도 힘차게 영어를 마스터해 보세요. 파이팅!
To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee.
하퍼리의 앵무새 죽이기 4단계 영어 음성만을 들으며 확인 학습하기
Chapter 1 The Fourth Text
제1장의 네 번째 글
He took his time about it. Wooden sawhorses blocked the road. At each end of the Radley lot, straw was put down on the sidewalk. Traffic was diverted to the back street. Dr. Reynolds parked his car in front of our house and walked to the Radleys every time he called. Jem and I crept around the yard for days. At last, the sawhorses were taken away, and we stood watching from the front porch when Mr. Radley made his final journey past our house. There goes the meanest man ever God blew breath into, murmured Calpurnia, and she spat meditatively into the yard. We looked at her in surprise, for Calpurnia rarely commented on the ways of white people. The neighborhood thought, when Mr. Radley went under, Boo would come out, but it had another think coming. Boo's elder brother returned from Pensacola, and took Mr. Radley's place. The only difference between him and his father was their ages. Jem said, Mr. Nathan Radley bought cotton, too. Mr. Nathan would speak to us, however, when we said good morning, and sometimes we saw him coming from town, with a magazine in his hand. The more we told Dill about the Radleys, the more he wanted to know. The longer he would stand hugging the light pole on the corner, the more he would wonder. Wonder what he does in there, he would murmur. Looks like he'd just stick his head out the door. Jem said, he goes out, all right, when it's pitch dark. Miss Stephanie Crawford said, she woke up in the middle of the night one time and saw him looking straight through the window at her, said, his head was like a skull looking at her. Ain't you ever waked up at night and heard him, Dill? He walks like this. Jem slid his feet through the gravel. Why do you think Miss Rachel locks up so tight at night? I've seen his tracks in our backyard many a mornin', and one night I heard him scratching on the back screen, but he was gone time Atticus got there. Wonder what he looks like, said Dill. Jem gave a reasonable description of Boo. Boo was about 6.5 feet tall, judging from his tracks. He dined on raw squirrels, and any cats he could catch, that's why his hands were blood-stained. If you ate an animal raw, you could never wash the blood off. There was a long jagged scar that ran across his face. What teeth he had were yellow and rotten. His eyes popped, and he drooled most of the time. Let's try to make him come out, said Dill. I'd like to see what he looks like. Jem said, if Dill wanted to get himself killed, all he had to do was go up and knock on the front door. Our first raid came to pass, only because Dill bet Jem the Grey Ghost against 2 Tom Swifts, that Jem wouldn't get any farther than the Radley gate. In all his life, Jem had never declined a dare. Jem thought about it for 3 days. I suppose he loved honor more than his head, for Dill wore him down easily. You're scared, Dill said, the first day. Ain't scared, just respectful, Jem said. The next day, Dill said, you're too scared even to put your big toe in the front yard. Jem said, he reckoned he wasn't, he'd passed the Radley place every school day of his life. Always runnin', I said. But Dill got him the 3rd day, when he told Jem that folks in Meridian certainly weren't as afraid as the folks in Maycomb, that he'd never seen such scary folks as the ones in Maycomb. This was enough to make Jem march to the corner where he stopped, and leaned against the light pole, watching the gate hanging crazily on its homemade hinge. "I hope you've got it through your head that he'll kill us each and every one, Dill Harris," said Jem, when we joined him. "Don't blame me when he gouges your eyes out. You started it, remember." "You're still scared," murmured Dill patiently. Jem wanted Dill to know, once and for all, that he wasn't scared of anything. "It's just that I can't think of a way to make him come out, without him getting us." Besides, Jem had his little sister to think of. When he said that, I knew he was afraid. Jem had his little sister to think of the time I dared him to jump off the top of the house. "If I got killed, what'd become of you?" he asked. Then he jumped, landed unhurt, and his sense of responsibility left him, until confronted by the Radley place. "You gonna run out on a dare?" asked Dill. "If you are, then." "Dill, you have to think about these things," Jem said. "Lemme think a minute. It's sort of like making a turtle come out." "How's that?" asked Dill. "Strike a match under him." I told Jem, if he set fire to the Radley house, I was going to tell Atticus on him. Dill said, striking a match under a turtle was hateful. "Ain't hateful, just persuades him." "It's not like you'd chunk him in the fire," Jem growled. "How do you know a match don't hurt him?" "Turtles can't feel, stupid," said Jem. "Were you ever a turtle, huh?" "My stars, Dill. Now lemme think. Reckon we can rock him." Jem stood in thought so long, that Dill made a mild concession. "I won't say, you ran out on a dare, and I'll swap you the gray ghost, if you just go up and touch the house." Jem brightened. "Touch the house, that all?" Dill nodded. "Sure that's all, now? I don't want you hollerin' something different, the minute I get back." "Yeah, that's all," said Dill. "He'll probably come out after you, when he sees you in the yard. Then Scout and me'll jump on him and hold him down, till we can tell him we ain't gonna hurt him." We left the corner, crossed the side street that ran in front of the Radley house, and stopped at the gate. "Well, go on," said Dill, "Scout and me's right behind you." "I'm going," said Jem, "don't hurry me." He walked to the corner of the lot, then back again, studying the simple terrain, as if deciding how best to effect an entry, frowning and scratching his head. Then, I sneered at him. Jem threw open the gate, and sped to the side of the house, slapped it with his palm, and ran back past us, not waiting to see if his foray was successful. Dill and I followed on his heels. Safely on our porch, panting and out of breath, we looked back. The old house was the same, droopy and sick, but, as we stared down the street, we thought we saw an inside shutter move. Flick. A tiny, almost invisible movement, and the house was still.
이 영상이 도움이 되셨다면 좋아요, 그리고 구독 부탁드립니다.